Ah, fantastic. Okay, so now that the recording is rolling, um, where was I? So I was saying that my goal today is to work with you to switch to a career that leverages it, maximizes your skills. It helps you cut down on your overwhelm. It maximizes whatever skills you have. It expands your earning power because inflation is not going anywhere. So, and you need to be able to afford the life you live. So, and I know the in previous generations, it used to be a thing where you're supposed to do whatever you can to stay in one company and rise through the ranks. That was then. This is now. I recognize that there are some companies that are growing so fast and they really love their employees that they don't mind. They're going to do whatever is necessary to keep their employees. So you rise through the ranks, they have projects for you, they have work for you, they have earning opportunities for you, they have benefits, and it's actually in the interest of your career to stay with such a company. And that's fine, it's all well and good. But companies like that are not common. They're the exception. They're currently not the rule. We wish they're the rule, but they're currently the exception. And we cannot build a thriving career on wishes. We can't build it on hope that some corporate organization somewhere will do right. You can't. Is not feasible. It's not viable. It's not smart. It's not wise. It's not. It's not the go-to move for somebody that's trying to make something beautiful out of their lives. And I really also believe, I really, really believe that the work that you know how to do should bring you income that allows you to rest, like work from a place of rest. Like you're not hassled. You might need to work hard, but once it gets into the realm of hustle, it means that you're not getting enough either respect for your time or you're not getting enough rewards for your time, and sometimes it's both. And what that it just pushes you very, very quickly to burn out, and that's not the kind of life we're trying to build. So here's what we're trying to do. I know it's been not about making successful transitions and expanding my earning power. And what I would say is, you see all those career transitions I was explaining to you earlier, right? One thing they all have in common is this: each time I made a switch, sometimes I my income multiplied. I'm not making I'm not making a switch that takes me back down. I'm setting myself up to go higher. And it's not unique to me. I've watched several people do it over the years. And so there is no reason you will now say, oh, I want to take a pay cut. Oh, but I'm not saying that it's wrong to take a pay cut because you're making a switch. But if you are making a switch, you might as well take the opportunity to set yourself up to earn more and become more comfortable so that your work-life balance and the overall thing is actually profitable for you, right? So it's better to plan it in a way that by the time you are finally landing in the space that you're going to, you're in a better place than when you were coming from. Because one thing you are definitely bringing to the table is that you're bringing your domain knowledge and experience from where you're coming. It is valid, it is very valuable. And if you land with a proper employer, they will prioritize it. So you get all of that. Um, right, let's move forward. Today's agenda. First thing we're going to talk about is why tech should be a viable, option for you. Um, we'll talk about getting in alignment to stay relevant. Then we'll talk about the AI conundrum. I know there's a lot of hesitancy in the last, few months. Do I really want to switch to tech? Will AI not knock me out? I'll just say about that as we go on. Then we'll talk about where you belong in tech. Tech is a very vast field. And it's not enough to just say, I want to switch to tech. Where in tech are you going? Why are you going there? Is it something you will enjoy? Is it suited for you? We'll figure that out. I'll show you how to figure that out. It's down to a science. It's not guesswork. We'll consider all the components and figure that out. And then we'll have a question and answer session. I'll take case studies, etc. And then if we have time, if we have time, I'll talk about transitioning into data analytics if we have time. But yeah, let's get started. First section, the case for a career in tech. So, why tech? If we look around, we keep seeing, for example, you keep seeing that companies are rising, they're growing in market share, they're growing in market capital, they're growing in share capital, they're earning more, they're returning records profits, in millions and billions of dollars. And one thing they all have in common is this: the companies that are growing the fastest are the ones that are leveraging information and data from the past to make decisions in the present about the future they want to create for themselves. So there will always be, as they keep on growing, they will always have need for people that know how to handle, leverage, manipulate data to do the work that they need to be done. As technological advancements continue to happen, companies will always hire, they will always need to hire, like, they want to grow. Of course, there's a part where they want to replace as much, they want to try and save money, so they want to replace as much people with tech as possible. But there is only so far they can go. There is only so far they can go. And I will get into this like very shortly. There's only so far they can go without the manpower. You can only automate like a certain base level of operations. Once you start to go, you can't exactly have a computer check the work of another computer. It's not reliable. The more layers of computer checking computers that you have, the more likely you are to make a colossal mistake that will make your company implode. We see this all the time. And it is funny because in all of this, AI will replace people, blah, blah, blah. Just last year, more than half of companies that already exist within the tech industry reported a talent shortage. So in the middle of all they're firing, they're laying off, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're reporting a talent shortage. They don't have enough people that are skilled at the work that is needed to be done, right? And what is really going on is more of a market shift. So you see the big companies are recognizing that they need laser focus for exponential growth. So any product that is not looking like it is going to tie in to whatever they are putting a laser focus on, they're killing it off, which inadvertently means that the people that have been working on those products, they get laid off, right? But it also means that the market is opening up. So as they are leaving those products behind, we have smaller companies, relatively smaller, because we have smaller in the sense that they're not as big as the giants, but they are that are focused on solving those problems. They have less competition. It's no longer a case of they're going up against the giant. You can imagine if you were a company that used to hire, like, you have a staff strength of like 250, they're trying to solve a problem, but Google is also trying to solve that problem. And so it's fierce competition because Google has the advantage of having money to throw at the problem. And then Google wakes up and says, we don't want to do domain services anymore. And they kill that product. A company that is that large, that is already turning over millions in revenue, but their focus is domain services, cloud-based, shared server-based, and whatever like that, they are going to absorb that market share, which means that they are scaling from where they were at 250 and they might be doubling or even tripling. So it's not so much an implosion as it is a market shift. And if you're not very, very sensitive to it, you'll hear, this big company laid off employees today. But not many people go back to check, and then they see the people that came online today and said, our company laid 200 people off today. Trace those 200 people within a month. More than half of them have been hired elsewhere. And I'm going to explain how to navigate that whole market shift as we go further. And then, okay, I already explained this third point. Data-led companies are performing better. Tech-led companies are performing better. So they will need technical staff to stay profitable. So the question is not really about whether they need people, because no matter how much um, machines and AI they hire, they bring on, they set up, you still need people to oversee it, right? You still need people to oversee it. So here we go. What about AI? Here's the thing. AI makes work easier, but it still needs people to work effectively. AI can only work with what you tell it. If you are wrong, it is wrong. If the person programming your AI, in fact, this is a very, very, very good example that I am going to show you. You see, this slide presentation that I'm working with, I know people are used to using Microsoft presentation or Microsoft PowerPoint rather, or Google Slides to create presentations. But I wanted to experiment with a new tool. It's called Beautiful.ai, right? And the beautiful thing about this tool is that it helps you create. It helps you create. It helps you create PowerPoint presentations like this one. Now here's where it gets interesting. It has the option where you say, this is what I want to, this is the kind of presentation I want, and you ask it to go and generate. If you go that route, you will end up with content that's from AI, which means that as if that's what I had done and I was presenting this to you, I'll just be repeating whatever AI says to you. You would miss out on, if it makes mistakes on, of course, AI is not going to want to tell you that there's plenty of room for humans and all of that. Why? Because the database that they use to train AI is biased towards AI. So it's going to spit that information back at you. It's the same thing when you say you want to buy a book by an author, but the author is going to use AI to write their books. You are not getting access to what is in the author's head. You're getting access to what the author managed to tell AI as prompt. So where it boils down to is this. AI is a computer. It can only work with what you tell it. If the input is wrong, the output is going to be wrong. If the employer's ethics are wrong, the tool is going to be wrong. And one thing we need to know is domain knowledge is always an advantage. So the same way I was coming from education industry, from the education field, and I came into the coaching industry, I became an excellent learning administrator. Why? I already had the experience of helping learners learn. I wasn't coming there to come and say, this is what is in the curriculum, this is what is in the, what's that thing they call a scheme of work. Scheme of work was great, but I was able to look at a learner and say, this is the problem you want to solve. You don't need all of the resources within this coaching ecosystem. This is what you need. So go from here to here to here to here. And they come back within 3 months. Like, in fact, it is rarely ever even up to 3 months. Within that cycle of whatever, it was effective, it was focused. Why? I was coming into coaching administration with the domain knowledge of education. When I was going to step into data analytics as an instructor, I was coming with the domain knowledge of coaching and education. And it gave me an advantage. Why? Because now, for example, and I know I do this a lot, if somebody comes to me and they say, oh, they're not able to get into my program, they're not ready for data analytics with Jane, they just want to learn something, blah 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 blah. I tell them to go and take the Google course, because as far as courses go, that course had the most involvement of people in the building. So it lends itself a little bit to having people actually say, this is how people are most likely to learn. It's not just spitting out garbage. You get to interact with actual instructors and whatnot. But if you go and you take a course, for example, that was generated by AI, you are limited by whatever the person that or the people that programmed it to tell you. And this is where it now, and I know I'm talking about it in the context of learning. By the time we start talking about it in the context of companies that are trying to provide a solution to their customers, it's that arrangement leaves the ethics gap open, because a computer will always default to the initial instruction it was given. It's not going to consider whether it is morally right or wrong, because you cannot explain morals to a computer, because morals is not black and white. It's a gray area. There will be, it's case by case, contextual basis, and all of that. AI doesn't know how to do that. It's going to leave nuance out of the program, out of the consideration. Is going to leave the ability to adapt out of the equation. And AI obviously does not have a sense of judgment. So when you throw all of that together, one thing that we one thing that we often see is that you have a business owner or C-suite executive say, "Oh, they're going the route of AI," and I never argue. You want to go with AI, no problem. Then they go, then they come back, then they start saying it's crossed this line or it crossed that line, or it has incurred them a legal case, or now they need to pay damages, they need to rectify this, they need to rectify that, it has damaged customer relationships and all of that. And I'm like, obviously, because it is not a human being. So because AI is only good as what you tell it, because AI is only good as what you tell it, and it is not very good at taking right iterations from the front end. If you are not, so let me give you this case. There was this one we're dealing with just yesterday, and I find it very hilarious. I've not stepped into it yet. I read the case, the issue at hand, and I'm not even sure I want to take it on to help them get that business back on track. But this is what it looks like. They their business involves them using a lot of graphic designs, almost like how almost like how an organization like a church, for example, will do a lot of graphic designs week in, week out, because they want to capture the essence of what is being taught and all of that, right? But in this case, they are working with customers, but their business requires a lot of graphic designs. That at this point they were trying to promote a movie or something like that. And they had the brilliant idea that they were going to fire all their designers and all their artists and all their, so they had a team that had artists, like digital artists. And when I say digital artists, I'm not saying artists that tell AI what to do and then they return it as a painting. No, like artists that actually know how to draw and paint, but tend to use digital tools so that it's easy to share and refine and all of that. So they had artists, they had graphic designers, they had visual designers, they had editors on their on their art team, and then they had the brilliant idea to fire the entire team and work with bots instead. And this is what happened. According to them, they gave the initial prompts, and the tools returned. And it was not cheap tools, or these are the supposedly well trained ones like Market Peak. And the tools returned initial drafts of graphics like 40. Now out of the 40, like 3 were usable. That was issue number one, because if it was their team cannot be doing 40 designs and only 3 will be usable. So that was where the issues first started. Then they said this 3, refine it on this one. So you know how you give feedback to a visual artist and you say, this is a little too dark, so refine it in this way. And sure, refine it in this way and edit it in that way. And you just give feedback to your artist, and your artist knows how to incorporate all of that. They said they spent 2 weeks going back and forth trying to refine, and each time the tools gave them stuff that was more increasingly worse. Why? They were doing a front end recalibration. The only way to actually get results with AI recalibration, like it returns something that is not exact, that does not fit your specifications, is that you go to the back end, to the code that helps it run, and you refine it from there. And that's not very feasible. If you have to go back and reprogram the tool every single time you need it done, you might as well just have a team of people that will do it front end. And This is a classic example because we say it week in, week out. Now they're looking to hire the artist back, and the artist said they are not coming back. So, yeah, that's like a problem. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is because of these four things: ethics, nuance, adaptation, judgment. Because a computer cannot have that, because you're going to have to code it on a case by case basis, it's actually not feasible in the long run to have AI on any level that goes beyond basic operations. So you'll see that people program their websites to have chatbots that have automated conversations, and then you end up with a customer that is trying to complain and say, oh, I tried to buy something from you guys and they sent me the wrong one, and now it is triggering an allergy and I need you to come pick it up. And the chatbot will be telling you that the protocol is that they will come and pick it up within 48 hours after a complaint has been made. It's not recognizing that nuance needs to be done there, that an adaptation needs to be done there. It's not recognizing the need, it's not even recognizing the need for judgment to the point where it will make an alternate decision to what it has been programmed to do. Do you understand? So all of that just goes to show us like it's a big gap. You can't close it with a computer. You can't effectively long term supervise a computer with a computer. Customers want to speak to human beings. And when all is said and done, AI needs to be built, tech needs maintenance, people will always be needed. So long and short, this AI conversation is this: skilled people are always relevant. So when you have things where they're laid off because they're trying to use AI, or they're trying to use automations and all, it is always the people that are not very skilled that get the brunt of it. So the answer is to skill up and get specific, right? The answer is to skill up and get specific in what you know how to do, when you're doing it, why you're doing it, right? Okay, so your definite advantage over AI is that you're a human being, right? So I'm not going to deny that AI makes life and work easier. Smart tools are a game changer, right? I was explaining how I was using this AI tool to build a presentation very quickly. So where normally in Google Slides or PowerPoint, you start arranging the slides, and you're choosing your layout, you're selecting everything, you are shifting it, you are shaping it, you're picking each color, you are arranging it, you're choosing the size, you're choosing how fast, how it should flow, and all of that. Here, it has a lot of presets, right? You feed in the elements, you tell it okay, I want it, for example, for this slide, I picked a slide layout and I said, I want a label and I want a topic. And I typed in my label text and I typed in my topic text and I put in my picture, and it arranged it in the way that was optimal. So I was not moving things around. You know how in Canva, pressing the arrow one after the other, little by little, to see when to balance. It cuts out that time. So definitely the tools make life easy for you, right? You get on Tableau, you're building out a dashboard, and you tell it auto layout, and you arrange, okay, you want to put 4 graphs on your dashboard, right? 4 visualizations on your dashboard, and it does the auto rearrangement and it adapts it in a way that it settles out. That makes your work easier. I'm building out a website. I have 3 containers, 3 options that I want to display, and I want to make sure that it's balanced. So I just tell the tool, set it at 33% for each box, and it balances it out. It makes my work easier. I'm not guessing and arranging or putting a ruler. I remember back then when we first started working with design and stuff like this, when I was a teenager, and we'll carry all the, these transparent rulers, and you put it against your computer screen to kind of measure it, or you use that ruler that comes inside a Microsoft Word, and you drop it down, you hope that you have a straight line. It cuts it all out, right? So it really does help you do your work. But ultimately, it can only go so far without a human being, as long as that human being is skilled. So a skilled human being will be able to leverage AI to create excellent results, but AI on its own cannot replace a skilled human being. So if AI is able to replace you, it's either that you're not good at what you do, or that's not your zone of expertise. It's not your zone of genius. So you can either upskill or switch to something else, right? So like I said, ethics, nuance. Then there's also this part, empathy. Empathy. No, a computer doesn't have that, right? So, what I would say to you is you got to stop running. Like, if you have been telling yourself AI is the reason you don't want to switch to tech, a skilled person will always have work. So start learning. This is your invitation to start learning. And that brings us to our next section. As we're going on, please know that the chat box is open. So at any point in time you can drop a message in the chat box if you have questions. I'll be happy to take them all through the session. Right? Are we good? All right, awesome. Wait, actually, are we good? Am I talking to myself? Hello.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, no problem. Thank you. All right, so at this point, we then start to talk about where you fit in. It is tech. Where do you fit into tech? And the reason this conversation is important is this. Oftentimes, we have people say they want to switch to tech. Then they hear that tech is coding. They're like, oh, me, I cannot code. So they run away. And then somebody tells them that data does not involve coding. And then they run into data. And then they reach the middle of learning data analytics, probably. And they realize that data analytics does have a bit of coding involved. And they run away. And then they find their way to building websites, and they build no code websites, and it's fun, yay. And then they realize that websites can involve code, and then they run away. And before they blink, they realize that they spent 2 years trying to switch into tech, but they're jumping from place to place because they don't really get it, or they don't really know where they would fit. Or the ones that really, really pain me are the ones that go through the learning process. They finish the course, they get their certifications, they probably even land a job, but they don't enjoy it, so they quit. And they either go back to where they were coming from, or they pick another endeavor in tech and they start the process all over again. It's a waste of time. So what we're going to do is that we're going to try and figure out where we fit in inside this whole tech thing, and so that the journey becomes a straight line. You're not guessing, you're not doing many, many, many more, right? So if you are, and now this conversation is not limited to switching to tech, because there will be people that they're just trying to transition careers. They are not they are not they are not fixated on tech per se. They just want to switch careers. So I'm saying this from the standpoint of you want to switch a career, you want to switch your career path, you want to switch your field, you want to switch your industry. These are things you should be looking at, right? So please grab a pen, grab paper, grab a notebook, grab a journal, or open a note if you're more of a tech person. And I'm going to be asking you questions, and I want you to write your answers down. When we're done, when we're done, um, I'm going to show you what to do with your answers, right? When we're done, I'm going to show you what to do with your answers. So, uh, you want to write your answers down, and also you want to be able to refer to them, to your answers, and so because sometimes, like I said, I was explaining the concept of change and stability the other time. You need to be able to tell, you need to be able to tell if something has changed. If you don't write the answers down, you'll not be able to tell that something has changed. So let me know when you're ready. When you're ready, put it in chat box for me that you are ready. Are you ready? Put it in the chat for me. Awesome. Ready, ready, ready. Fantastic. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go. We had a couple of people join us while I was talking. So, welcome to you both. Yeah. All right, let's go. Let me open the chat box and keep it open. Um, and go this way. The top five indices. So, the first thing you need to consider interests are really, really love. And please don't make a restrictive list. Write everything. What are things you really, really love? Things you enjoy, things that call to you, things that call your name, things that you give you a spark of joy. And the reason this is important is that you are more likely to thrive if you're doing things that are related to your interests. So you love creating, or you love to paint, you love to create experiences, or you know, maybe you love accuracy, maybe you're crazy about languages. Get specific, because all the ones I'm giving you is like big buckets, but get specific. What do you really, really love? Do you have that down? Okay, so second thing you should consider, that you absolutely need to consider, is to think about work that you enjoy. So think back to things you were happy to volunteer to do, specific tasks that you were happy to volunteer to do, things that when you do it, you get giddy with excitement, things that if you have to do it from morning till night, even if they'll not pay you, you're happy to do it, things that maybe from your previous roles you enjoyed it. So see, like how I didn't particularly like the concept of going out every morning and coming back because I was going to school to teach, but I enjoyed the actual teaching. So the work I enjoyed was teaching, and I had to separate that from the fact that I did not like commuting. Do you see? So if I had to say what I enjoy, teaching, but I did not like being a teacher. So separate it, break it down, like break it down. I enjoyed creating learning experiences for my learners. I enjoyed creating unique, like designing learning curriculums and unique learning plans for my learners. I did not particularly enjoy the parts where we now start to argue with, because then it was hard arguing in school. You have to get those ILPs actually executed with other teachers. So you see that back and forth also with other teachers to make sure that they're following the ILP. I did not enjoy it, but I liked creating ILPs, and I was able to put it down that work that I enjoy doing is creating curriculums. And in nearly every role I've had since then, since I left teaching, I'm designing a learning program for somebody. I even when I was working as a coaching administrator and then as a coaching manager, I was designing learning experiences for my boss coaching client, private coaching clients, and I was designing for my own team members to make sure that yes, they're on top of their work. So separate the part of the work that you enjoy doing from the overall role. Don't bundle it that, oh, it's teaching I don't like. No, enjoy, you like the skill teaching, you don't like the other parts. So leave the other parts, just write down the work you enjoy. What type of things would you rather do? Then a third question I would need you to answer is look at the work experience you have. What is the work experience you have? And I want you to write that in as many words as possible. So if your work experience, for example, like mine is teaching, some that some places will have that as an instructor, some places will have that as a teaching assistant, some places will have that as a lecturer. It's the same thing. It's like very similar. So like what kind of work experience do you have? What kind of jobs have you done before? What kind of jobs have you done before? What are the things that you're happy to prioritize? And I think I want to say this at this point. The answers that you are writing, please write, don't remove anything that you don't want to be stuck with. If you write something down and you realize that if I'm doing this thing, day in, day out for the next 2 years. I will throw it away, like I'll get frustrated. Don't bother to add it to your list. Remember, as I said at the start of this session, we are designing a career that you would actually want. The goal is to have a career that you actually want. It's not just about, oh, I want to work in tech or I want to make big money. If you don't like it, you can't last. I promise you, you can't last. There's only so much you'll be able to take before you either have a mental burnout and a breakdown, or um you're put for the sake of yourself, like yourself enough to design a career that you actually want. So when I say write down your interests, things you like, write down what you enjoy. Do you see the trend? Write down your work experience, right? The experience that you actually liked having. So, for example, maybe at some point in the time, now I rarely talk about this. I studied biochemistry, like clinical biochemistry. I worked for a bit as a lab scientist in a hospital. Like, I actually carried my degree and I went to work with it, and I hated every moment of it. You cannot see me designing a career and referencing that time. In fact, I'm not even sure I put it on my CV. It's nowhere on my resume. You can't see it on my resume, but I'm not even sure that right now it is on my that CV, the document that has all of your work experiences from the beginning to the end. It's not there. I don't want that kind of work. I don't like it. I am skilled at it. I'm well trained at it. If I sit with biochemistry students right now, if I'm skilled with biochemistry students right now, I will cruise with them through the course content. Like, I know it's like the back of my hand, but I didn't enjoy the work, so I don't quit it. I'm trying, I don't quit it. It's very rare. Like, I've had a couple of offers, and I see that, oh, they're a medical facility, and I'm like, no, why? I didn't like it. I didn't like working in a hospital, so I'm not going to it, right? So, and I'm just giving you that as an example. So there will be work that now. Do I have those skills? Yes, because you can hardly be a good biochemist and not you can hardly be a good biochemist and not um know how to sift through the data in front of you and actually analyze it, right? So I am here, I am using the skills I learned during my learning in other contexts, but it was not work I enjoyed, so I don't reference it. I don't talk about it. I don't use it like when I'm trying to transition. I'm more interested, so it doesn't pop up. So I'm just saying, sharing this to like sort of liberate your mind, right? So that you know the kind of answers you want to like keep. So write everything down, then remove anything that you don't want. Then a fourth thing that you need to understand is, what are your priorities when you're working? What are your priorities? Who do you focus on when you're creating work, when you're doing work, when you're doing deep work, important, valuable work? Who do you focus on, or what do you focus on? When you think about work, what's the most important to you? For some people, it is the going to work that is important to them. For some people, it is the tools that they get to use. Oh my God, I get to use this tool. For some people, it's the gadgets they get to use. For some people, it's the people they get to work with. Yeah, people that it is the stakeholders they get to work with that is priority to them. For some people, it's the type of work. But like, you need to write that out. What are your priorities when you're working? What gets you excited about work? What gets you really, really interested? What makes you feel like, yes, I've done good work? What are you looking out for? Where's your validation coming from? What gets you feeling like, oh, that's good work, right? You want to write that down. And then the final thing to consider is, what are your sensitivities? And this one, please write an exhaustive list. Abby, yes, like, write it. What are you sensitive to? What is that one thing that you've done great work, but you see it and you're like, ew, no, I'm not happy to put this out. What are the things that you have to be perfect? And I know we don't pay a lot of attention to it, but even people that are perfectionists, even people that have OCD, there are things that they can allow to slide, and there are things that they cannot allow to slide. And this shows up everywhere, at home, at work, at play, in your relationships. Call them, we like to call them deal breakers, right? But there are things that you will just see in work and you're like, no. For example, you can do spelling work for me. But if your grammar or your spelling is atrocious, I will warn you once. If it happens again, it's not likely that I will want to have you on a team that I am personally leading, even if you're brilliant at what you do. It's one of the reasons why, for my interns, I like to give them a fair chance by giving them access to my writing program so that we don't fight. I hate it. Like, you do brilliant work, but your documentation is poor. I can't. And that's a personal deal breaker for me. And so I tend to only value um, invites to work in companies that have a certain caliber of staff. That's a personal, that's a very personal thing for me. And I recognize it. So instead of going to a place where everybody will not be frustrated because I'll be correcting you at every turn. Like, it's not can, it's could. And hello, that word has a double L. And then everybody's frustrated and upset. If the company, the way it is presented, and they're like, oh, we want to have, we need something, 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 and this and that, and I'm saying that this is going to be a problem, I will honor myself and your time and decline, right? But I have that luxury because of where I'm currently at my career. I'm not just starting. For you, it might be something like details. You don't like A and B. You don't like 1 and 3, not adding up to 4. It's not giving you 3.99. That's 0.01. It gives you a headache. Write it down. It's going to come into play, and I'll show you how it comes into play. For some people, it is the experience. You're like, this is a great thing, but the experience is horrible. And because the experience is horrible, you're not going to get your head into it. And it just makes you not willing to do the work. Write it down. For some people, it is skill. You're like, this is beautiful, but what happens when 100 people want it? So you're looking at it and you're saying, this is beautiful, but what happens when 100 people want it? And all of a sudden, there's a problem. That inability to scale frustrates you. Write it down. For some people, it is packaging. They're like, why are your flyers so poorly done? And because the flyer is poorly done, you're not willing to buy the product. For some people, it is visual details. The slides are not pretty, so I'm not enjoying the session. Yeah, people have different sensitivities, people have different apes, but whatever it is, write it out. Let me know when you're done answering. Those are my 5 questions. When you're done answering, put it in the comments for me that you're done so that we can move to the next section. Right? Manual processes. Actually, like, why are you stressing? And there are some people that if that manual process is not there, if that hard work thing is not there, they don't feel like they're doing work. And some people, if it is too stressful, they don't want to have checked out. But yeah, write those down. Let's know what's going on. Okay, I'm saying done, done, done. Some more people. Some more people. Some more people. How far was so done? Okay, one more. Are you ready, 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 ready? Are you ready, ready, ready? Okay, so let's move forward. Now, what I'm going to help you do is that I'm going to help you classify your answers into big buckets that we can now assign. So let's classify the answers to each of the 5 questions into big buckets. The first question was about interests. What do you love? What are you interested in? And these are the 7 big buckets we're going, because we are talking about tech. If we're talking about another industry, like, the buckets would be different. But right here, I want you to sort out your interests. Do you have more interests around visual design or around languages? And when I say languages, I'm talking about normal languages. I recognize that in tech, usually when they say languages, they're talking about programming languages. They're talking Python and JavaScript and HTML and R and all of that. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Your normal languages: English, Yoruba, Spanish, French, Chinese, whatever. Yeah. So work, the beauty, the precision, the nuance, the way the words work together to bring something beautiful out. Or say you are, you are interested in, you love visual design, the way things look pretty, like you're able to tell colors and depth and the way things just come together and they look great. Or maybe you are interested in things that contribute to immersive design. Immersive design talks to how, you experience something, and the way it flows from one thing to another is both beautiful and smooth. The two are working together, right? It's both beautiful and smooth. So the entire experience is coherent. It comes together beautifully. Or maybe your interests lie along the lines of accuracy, counting, precision, things coming together line on line. You are the kind of person that when you like books, you like it that as the story is flowing, it's not giving you an unexplained detail or leaving something in the air. Plot holes are closed. Those are coming in the lines of accuracy. So I'm saying you need to open your mind to actually pull it in together, right? Accuracy, for example, and I like using stories because I love novels, right? I read. I write, I do a lot of reading, and I would say this one is like a big ick for me. You know how they're writing a story and they mention that somebody has blue eyes. Then 3 chapters later, it feels like the author has forgotten that they gave the person blue eyes. And then now they're back here and they're talking about the person having pink eyes or something very, very ridiculous. And you're just like, what's doing all these people? Do you understand? So that's, and then it gives you like you're not really, really balancing and all of that like that. Yeah. So if your interests lie in the direction of accuracy, right? Note it down. Another thing is safety. So this safety is a very, very big banner. Safety talks about privacy, honoring that people have their privacy, honoring that people are respected. It talks about eliminating bullying. You see that the things that you tend to do tends to make sure that people's rights are protected, people are not exploited. You enjoy those kind of things and make sure that people are equally represented. There's inclusion, there's safety, there's stuff like that. Yeah. And then operations has to do with the fact that you like work, or you like work related stuff from the perspective of keeping things flowing, that things are working together. So for somebody that enjoys planning and management and execution, your interest might actually lie in this direction. So operations, right? Keeping things going. Maybe the things you like have a lot to do with working behind the scenes to make things viable and important and flowing and prioritized and properly planned and executed and all of that. So maybe that's where your interest lies. And there's also those of us that like to sell. Two things. Selling is not business. Business is not selling. There are people that know how to sell but are terrible at business, because business is a series of decisions. Selling is a path of persuasion. So not everybody that is good at selling is good at business, and not everybody that is great at business is great at selling. So if your interests lie in the direction of selling, so if you are great at business but you're not great at selling, then your interest would probably lie more in the direction of operations. I'm just pointing that out. So I want you to note the buckets that your interests lie in. So I'm talking about the answers to question number 1 here. Okay. All right, so let's talk about question number 2, our second bucket. Our second bucket talks about the work you enjoy. Now,
This
Huh?
thing I help you. Google has made
Okay. All right. So work that you enjoy. Now, the reason interest is different from work you enjoy is this. Interest has to do with things you love, you enjoy, you are happy to do. Work you enjoy is something that if you are doing, you like it, you are happy to do it. But if you are doing it repeatedly, day on day, year on year, you're not going to get burnt out. Do we get the difference? You can love something but not be happy to do it as work. There are things you will enjoy doing, but if they say you should come and do it, you lose interest. Those things don't belong under what you enjoy. So if you need to reorganize your lists, please do. What you it is very, very important. Otherwise, you will end up with something that you know how to do, you enjoy doing it, but you hate going to work. And then it puts the pressure on you and it takes the joy out of it. And all of a sudden, you no longer like where you are. So we need to separate the two. So for what you enjoy, we have 7 big buckets again. Maybe you enjoy build. So we've talked about visual design, but some people enjoy building a visual experience for others. You enjoy the process of making sure that as people step into a space, as they're doing something, what they see is easy on the eyes. It makes them relax, or it makes them, get excited in the mood, this kind of stuff. So if the work you enjoy lies in that direction, that's a perfect for you. Some of us we love doing math. We love doing math, but so you can use school as reference. People that fall into this particular bucket enjoyed doing math even in school. So even when there was a pressure of doing the math, doing the math, doing statistics and all of that, even when there was that pressure, they didn't mind it. There's some people that enjoy doing calculations, but the moment there's pressure of grades, there's pressure of validation, there's pressure of people looking at their results, they don't want to do it anymore. They come under pressure and they don't enjoy it anymore. Those people are not the people I'm talking about. Here, I'm talking about the fact that maybe your present job, or maybe maybe your present job, there's an element of it that involves doing calculations and keeping track of numbers, and you enjoy that part. You might not like the job, or maybe a job you've done in the past. You might not like the overall job per se, but you see that keeping track of the numbers, those calculations, those tracking this, tracking that is a thing. You enjoy it. Those are the people I'm talking about over here, right? If you belong in the group of people that you know how to do it, you don't mind doing it, but the moment they tell you something calculation, you pack your bag and you run away. Obviously that's the word I'm talking about, right? A third bucket would be people that create videos or presentations. I'm going to put presentations here as well. You love creating videos or presentations. If the work you enjoy, everybody has been doing work. Writing the report is hard, but when they say come and create the video, you're happy to do it, or come and present it, you're happy to do it. To pull the stories together, to pull the information together and tell a story with it. Yeah, you fall in this things, right? Then a fourth bucket is spotting patterns. So there are people that spot patterns on a normal day. You're walking on the streets, but subconsciously you have noticed that all the houses on the street have circles in their fences. And you notice that every 4 circles, on the fifth circle, they change the color. That is an interest. But if the work you enjoy has to do with making sure that there is no anomaly, or quickly catching that there was an error in something because you are following the patterns and the information and whatnot, you put it under this bucket, spotting patterns. Fifth bucket is investigations. Investigation sounds like a serious word, and I love serious words. Sorry. But the idea here is curiosity. people that really, really, really um, right, they want to know why. They have why questions for everything. They see something, it doesn't make sense. Their first question is why. They're not trying to cast the blame. They want to know why. Why is the sky blue? Why is water white? Why is water wet? Rather, why? Who remembers that milk advert? I think it was 3 crowns. Why is the sky blue? Why is water? But they have why questions. People that have why questions are very, very great at quickly picking out a problem and solving it from the roots. So it's a great thing, honestly. But if the work you enjoy doing has a lot to do with figuring out what went wrong, why it went wrong, and so you can fix it, investigations. Then again, now there are people that walk around languages. And in this case, so maybe you enjoy teaching languages, or you enjoy working with languages, or you enjoy translations, or you enjoy leveraging languages to do something. And for this particular one, um, I'm going to ask you to include both spoken languages and computer languages, any language, because ultimately, if you get into tech and you're in the kind of role that involves in the kind of role that involves coding actively, you will quickly learn that programming languages and spoken languages are not so different in syntax. You can probably tell by now that I'm obsessed with languages, but yeah. But that's the idea behind it. So if the work you enjoy involves languages, that's your bucket. And then a seventh bucket is people that love working with numbers or information. So there are people that love working with information. They know everything about what they are doing. Like in their place of work, they can keep track of the fact that this person has done they have done 70 sales outreaches, but only 7 or only 6 was successful. And so if you want to get results out of this person, that's the person you need to talk to. They track the numbers, they track the information. If you ask them a question, they start with I don't know, but they get very precise in their answers. And you quickly find out that the reason they're saying they don't know is because they're not sure about something that is there, maybe like 0.1%. Like they are very great with numbers, with information. So they might not necessarily be the calculative, like statistical calculation kind of people in their work. But you see, the information it flows is at the tip of their fingers. That's the seventh bucket. So I need you to figure out the answers to question 2. Which of these buckets does it fall into, right? And then the third bucket, remember, we asked about work experience. So I want you to go through this and decide which of these buckets do your favorite work experiences fall into. Remember, we're only prioritizing the ones we really, really like, the ones we don't mind doing again. So your previous experience is in design. Did it have to do with math or statistics? Did it have to do with user interface or user experience design? Did it have to do with strategy, strategic operations, strategic planning, anything strategy related? Did it have to do with privacy or consumer rights and stuff like that? Then I know that there are some people here that they already have experience with programming languages and all that, or it does not fall into any of these buckets and it's just the other. So I want you to put it in what buckets your work experience fall into, right? Okay. Let's go to the next set. Priorities. Remember, we talked about priorities. What are the things that you really, 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 really prioritize when you're doing your work? Do you prioritize your users, like the people that are going to use what you've done? Or do you prioritize the people that will see what you've done? Those are two different. Your users are not your audience. Your audience is everybody that will see what you've done and probably talk about it. Your users are the people that will actually use the things that you have created, that you're doing. So when you are doing your work, who is paramount in your mind, or what is paramount in your mind? Or maybe when you're doing your work, you're doing it and you tend to focus on the people you're working with. And none of this is better than the other. Let me just say this upfront. None of this is better than the other. It really boils down to the kind of person you are, the way your brain is wired, the kind of work you love to do. So I prioritize on the people that you're working with, or maybe your managers, the managers, the stakeholders, right? The managers, the stakeholders, maybe those are the people you prioritize. Maybe you prioritize the tech, the gadgets, the tools, or the working environment that you're in. Maybe you're the kind of person that you want to be in this particular. I don't like open plan offices, or I would rather be in my cubicle, or I like to work from home. Or you're the kind of person that says, this work I have to do it on my laptop. I can't do it on my phone. Or you're the kind of person that says, I need 4 screens. That's fair. But I want you to note it and put it into any of these big buckets. Or maybe you're the kind of person that prioritizes the numbers. Are the numbers adding up? If the numbers are not adding up, you're not satisfied, right? Like, note it, like, what are your priorities? Work out those buckets. Then, like, finally, we talked about sensitivities and icks, right? So I want you to classify the things you're sensitive to. Are you sensitive to the experience that they are going to have, your users are going to have? Or are you sensitive to details and precision? Are the kind of person that the details have to be exact, the precision has to be there, it has to be on point, like toe to toe, like totally pulled up together, right? Or are you the person that is sensitive to the scalability? Can we multiply this? Can we do this on the scale for 200 people? Can you do this on the scale for 300 people? Right? That scalability, you need to watch it, right? Are you a person that is sensitive to visual details, or a person that likes to provide like a sort of, you like it when they discover hidden eggs or hidden mysteries in what you've done, right? And those kind of things really, really excite you and thrill you and make you feel like, yes, this is excellent work. Or are you the kind of person that is sensitive to facts? I've given this example earlier. They're writing something and they said this person has brown hair, and 27 pages later, you're seeing black hair. And you're like, did they dye their hair somewhere in the middle? Right? Or maybe you're watching a movie and they said it's based on a true life event. All those there was this time when the Federal Republic of Korea they were very, very concerned that the younger generation, that's technically our generation, they didn't seem to know a lot about their history, and they wanted to make sure that they knew the history. So they tasked their movie industry with making historical series that depicts each of the eras of their ancient their dynasties, their history. So they turned the history to movies, and they were required to make the movies historically accurate, like from dressing to stories to the plot line to. So they were not particularly making movies per se. They were just like bringing history to life, and there will be people that would then sit with it. I think this was the part that was hilarious, because for a lot of us outside Korea that were watching those historical dramas from that era where the government mandate was on them to promote history, you're just enjoying the movie. But then there will be somebody that will come and tell you that no, it was not the Minister of Tourism that vetoed this decision in this case, according to the actual history record. It is this person, and the person is so upset, very, very upset. Why? The facts are not adding up. If you know you're that kind of person, yes, it's right. But there are people that it has to be precise, it has to be accurate, it has to be very, very to the detail. The facts are the most important thing. Right? Some people are sensitive to relationships. They are willing to do work, but they only want to do work that does not destroy relationships, either between them and their teammates, or them and the customer, or them and the audience or whatever relationships trigger them. So if your sensitivities and your icks fall into that category, yeah, put it there. And the last bucket I want to prioritize, the packaging bucket. The packaging. If you're the kind of person that you can look at an excellent thing, like excellent, the price is not a problem, the product is not a problem, but the way it's packaged just irritates you. Put your sensitivities in that bucket, and then let me know if you're done by putting it in the chat box. Are you done? Done, 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 done. Okay. First person is done. Right. First person is done. Done, done, done. Mhm. Okay. So this is why it's good to register early for stuff. I'm just getting a notification that some people did not register on time and they're now just registering and trying to get the meeting link and they're not able to because the platform is has been maximized, has hit the maximum. So they'll have to watch replays. Anyway, okay. Done, done, done. Fantastic. Thank you very much for responding. Let's move forward. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take all our answers and we're going to figure out where we fit into tech. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to help you see where you will thrive and grow the fastest. Now, I'm not saying that I need to put this caveat. I'm not saying that, oh, this is what you must, if you do this, you're not going to have any work to do. No, career transitions mean you are going to work. You will learn, you will practice, and you will work. No, that one you cannot do the shortcut. What I'm going to help you do is to help you to pick a field that your work is not as much. The least you'll be doing the least amount of work in the learning and adaptation, right? That's one thing. And then the second thing is that it is a field that aligns with your interests, so you will be growing very fast, right? That's what I want to help you to try and do. Now, other details you might probably need to note, and I think you should note down because if you will go through this whole process and you end up with two or maybe three, and you want to make a decision. These are other things that can factor. You can factor in your quirks. You can factor in your preferences. You can factor in your hard limits. So it's like how there are several industries I can work in. There are several like fields I can work in, but um I have I have a personal vendetta about working in a hospital. So anything health related, I'm happy to share information that I know. I'm happy to read. I'm happy to research, but I'm not going to do the work. Like, where I'm getting a job that is health related, you will not catch me there. All right, that is a personal preference. Or maybe you have a quirk that it's like, oh, there's a particular way you like to do your work. You want to note it down because when it comes down to choosing, you might now say, oh, because of this quirk or because of this preference, or maybe you had a bad experience in a particular industry or role previously, and you're like, never, can never be me, no problem. You need to note that down, and there's no hard fast rule that says because this is where you align with the most, you have to. It's not a box, it's not a cage, it's not padlock, and it's not a spell. They did not bind you to it. You can realize that this is where you match with and you want to go in the other direction. Totally fine. Your preferences, your choice. But these are the things you want to, and you can actually come and say, oh, I don't have design experience, but I'm curious about design and I want to go that route. It's totally fine. So I'm just trying to put the caveats in place. All right. So ready, let's go. Let's assess and decide where you fit in tech. So This is the first example. If you love, if you have interests that align around visual design, if you enjoy creating visual experiences, if you have experience with things that have to do with, art design or painting or, creative, if you love creating things, if you're working, if your focus is on the end user, and if you are sensitive to how an experience feels, you will thrive working with websites. You will, like, I can guarantee you this one, you will thrive working with websites. Bonus if you don't mind doing things like monitoring, you don't mind doing things like testing, you enjoy you don't have qualms with data protection, because if you're going to be successful with websites, your clients are going to be looking for assurances that the user's data is protected, and that one is hard work on its own. Right, those are bonuses. If you're actually interested in programming, even though I will say this, I'm always the first to admit that I'm always the first to admit that websites do not have to be coded. There's plenty of no code options for working with websites. So of course it leans very heavily on your ability to create visual experiences. And aha, that reminds me, if you have past experience in things like creating sterling presentations, if they've told you before that your presentations are always very beautiful, right? You're going to thrive with websites. Yes. If you have an intuitive tool of technological tools, like they give you a new tool, you have an intuitive use of it, is a definite advantage, right? So you don't have to start with coding. In fact, I know a lot of website developers that have zero idea about coding. But if you add programming languages to your repertoire at some point, it's a definite advantage. But yeah, websites, they're like low hanging fruit. You probably have heard of roles like web developer, website monitor, web tester, web programmer. And we're going in the direction of learning how to code. You hear front end developer, back end developer, or those that do both, and those are full stack developers, right? So that's one great place for you to land. Um, a second a second field that you will probably enjoy is design. And it's your career in design leans heavily on your ability to create immersive visual experiences. Well, let's just say visual experiences. So you love design. Your interests lie in the direction of design. You enjoy work that means that you're merging different things to create an experience. You have work experience that involves designing what or creating what's planning what users are going to see, planning what they're going to see. You your work is performative in that you live for the idea that if people see it, they're gonna love it. Not necessarily just people that are going to use it. You like the idea that, oh, if I finish this work now, people see it, right? If that's how you focus, you're very audience centric, and then you find yourself sensitive to visual details. You quickly catch that that thing is not very pretty, or it could have been better if you're that kind of person. Well, you should be looking in the direction of design, right? So roles that would interest you, um, I'm coming. Roles that would interest you. Roles that would interest you if you were going into design. Um, oh well, a UI designer that's designing user interfaces, a UX designer designing user experiences. Those are two different things. Some people do both, or most people do one or the other. Or a 3D graphics designer. And I think one other layer to this design thing is that some people actually love it more immersive. So assuming your interests lie more along the lines of immersive design, where you are planning how, if they go, like if they come in and you do this and they do that, you can pull the elements together to design how their experience is going to flow. If your work, the work you enjoy lies along the direction of creating videos or working with detailed elements, if you're the kind of person that loves the idea of when people, you hide nest eggs and mysteries and stuff, and you're very thrilled when people get it, and you're like, yes, you're the kind of even have experience with creating user interfaces or user experience, or you love giving and orchestrating an experience. You're a performer at heart, right? Or and like I said earlier, you live for the idea of an audience actually like getting it and being in love with the work you do, and you're sensitive to visual details. You can go the extra mile and not just do design. If you're in this second bucket, you can actually go all the way to becoming a video game designer. Video game designers are, they are intricate artists. I'm going to say this. They are intricate artists because it's essentially 3D design, right? Three-dimensional design, and it brings an entire experience to life. They usually work in teams. They're really isolated. They usually work in teams, and it can take them months, years to fully render a game. But is fun. A second thing, like if you're in the second bucket, another option for you to explore is animation. Those people that really, really great. How many of us here watched Tom and Jerry growing up? Tom and Jerry. Aha, aha. Tom and Jerry, right? Fantastic. So the people that create, yeah, you get it. So the people that create those videos, that make those animations, those cartoons. Remember how they said Shrek, for example, took years and years to build, and then they finally did it, and it was like, yes, yeah, those people, that second group, yes, that's them. And I know a lot of us don't really, really think of it in that direction. We were thinking tech, but yeah, video game design and game designs, video game designs. You see, those two things. What did I say? So I meant video game designs and then video designs, so animations, movies, animated movies. Some people can even go ahead and work in the movie industry. So the overlap between the movie industry and tech, where they're doing CGIs. CGI is not typically AI. All those, those extra things they put in a movie where it is not possible for anybody to act it. So they already know that it's going to come in at this editing level. Those guys, yep, that's it. So those are places you can also explore. They fall into the second category. Let's move forward. Oh dear, time is running. Okay, so yes, we have these buckets. Now, let me just give you've probably picked it up from where I've been talking before at the beginning, right? But here's the thing. If you love languages, you will thrive with coding. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you love languages, you're the kind of person that picks up languages very easily. Please, programming languages, I tell you. And it's even easier because you already speak English. So it just flows very nicely, right? So if you love languages and you enjoy doing math, now here's the thing. The work you enjoy has to do with mathematical calculations. If you have work experience around math and statistics, and you love languages, you will thrive with anything that has to do with programming and software, because essentially it is telling software, working with software is essentially telling the computer what to do, how to do it, when to do it. That's like it's precision in communication, essentially. People that thrive with software are also people that work with the kind of integrity of, I want my work to be excellent, so that when my contemporaries, when my teammates, when my collaborators, when they see it, I'm not the worst in the room. For some people, they have to be the best in the room, but minimum, they don't want to be the worst in the room. These people, software, please. These are people that are sensitive to details and precision. And when I say sensitive to details and precision, I mean sensitive to details and precision because if you are working with software, a Greek comma and a semicolon are written the exact same way, they look the exact same way. But if you're working with software and you're programming and you use a Greek comma when you're supposed to use a semicolon, your code will not run. So it takes an eye for detail and precision to be able to spot those kind of things and stay on track. So if you're obsessed with details and precision, please, I promise you, they need you here. Like they need you here, right? You will save your team so many hours and days of debugging code that is not supposed to go on. Now let's take this a little bit further. So say you love languages. Say the work you enjoy doing revolves around math and statistical calculations. So I've gone beyond math. I've gone to math and statistical calculations. All those people that like doing aggregates and whatnot, all those statistics drama. Then if you have a little bit of experience with programming, if you are very, very comfortable around tech already, and if you are sensitive to the ability of things to scale and be done on a large scale, you can go from software into cloud. They're very, very similar. They're very, very related. But I do not tend to advise beginners in tech to start at cloud because the learning gap is often a lot wider. So for somebody going into software, you'll hear roles like software programmer, network engineer, software engineer, system programmer, app programmer, mobile developer. They're developing, all those web apps like Facebook that have mobile apps that you can use on your phone, like Google Docs that you can use on your phone. You don't have to use in your browser. All those, yeah, those are software developers. But you see, by the time you're stepping into cloud, you also have to incorporate everything you're doing with software development. You also have to incorporate it with a sense of planning and design, right? It's a lot. It's like software development, but on a more complex level, right? So you hear roles like application engineer, software engineer. So some software engineers are like actually like cloud engineers, right? You hear cloud consultant, people that handle web services. You've probably heard of Amazon Web Services. Cloud guys out there, right? So those are two main buckets for people that love languages, math, statistics, and they're very sensitive to details, precision, scalability, that sort of thing. Now, let me show you something else. For people that love safety and security, the idea of keeping people safe, people's data safe, people having their privacy, people not having their data leaked, this sort of thing. And then for work they enjoy, when they're working with languages, they enjoy the way language can be precise and nuanced at the same time. They understand that they can work with it, right? For people that have maybe they even already have experience with privacy and consumer rights, which is great because it makes your work easier. It means that you're not going to go and start your journey from learning about privacy and consumer rights. That's essentially what that statement is really about. For people that when they're working, they're focused on the person that is going to use their work. Because you have to be very, very what's the you have to be very, very focus on the person that's going to use what you're doing for you to be good at cybersecurity. For people that are sensitive to details, right? If that's the direction that you are flowing in, you would very probably enjoy um, you very probably enjoy a career path in cybersecurity. But if you have a past experience with law, it's a definite advantage. Past experience with working with user experience. I already said sensitive to details. You would have an advantage, but this field is heavy on coding. So if you're going in here, you need to buckle up to add a few programming languages to your repertoire. You'll probably hear them talk about being a cybersecurity specialist or security engineer, right? All right. Fantastic. Yeah, then this one that I really, 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 really love. I love data. Okay, so if your interests lie in the direction of accuracy, if if your interests lie in the direction of accuracy and patterns, if you enjoy working with patterns, either spotting patterns or building patterns, if you have experience around strategy and planning, not necessarily execution, but strategy and planning. If you are very, very focused on precision when you work, like the dots, the I's have to have dots and the T's have to have their crosses in the right places. If you're very sensitive to facts, to accuracy, data is for you. If you have an affinity for information, in whatever context you have, you find yourself like picking up details that you did not know you were paying attention to. And then somebody asks you a question, you're like, I don't really know, but and it turns out that you do know, your subconscious knows it up. Yeah. You have an affinity for information, an affinity for numbers. If you know how to tell a story with information that is available, maybe through presentation. If communication is your strongest use. Now, I did not say writing, I said communication. Some people know how to communicate, but they're not good at writing. So there's two different things. I know they like to say, oh, written communication and verbal communication is story. Some people are great at communicating, some people are, but they're not good at writing. Some people are both. Some people are great at communicating, but they're not good at speaking. Like they're not eloquent or succinct in their speech, but it doesn't mean that they're not great at communicating. They know how to pass information across. So that passing information across in a way that the person that you're telling gets it. That's the communication we're talking about. If you have experience around strategy, if you're great with patterns, if you're a bit more technical, maybe you're comfortable with statistical modeling. You know, you're the kind of person that has no qualms about representing information. And before we blink, you're already talking about the average of this and the mean and the median, and you know how to like mold data, and you're able to pick out the fact that the average of the data that is being presented is not a true representation because there are a lot of outliers in the data. For example, they say, oh, so many people were late last Sunday. We are able to see from that number that the people that were late were not the people that were people that were late are not the people that were typically late. So there seems to be so much outliers. Let's find out what happened. If you're that kind of person that picks up on the nuances of trends and patterns and data, yep. If you're comfortable with visuals and interpreting visuals, you see a graph and you can interpret it. You might not be able to create at the start. It might need to be something you learn, but you see a graph or a visual representation of information and you are able to get it immediately. Yep, this is for you. If you have experience in computer science, you'll probably also thrive here, right? So a tech career built around data starts with a love for numbers and facts and a willingness to let data speak for itself. In other words, you're not putting your prejudice and your bias in front. You're able to say, but this is what the numbers say, this is what the information we actually have says. And you're able to separate it from your bias and say, I would prefer, but this is what is actually true, right? Statistical modeling is learnable. I've said that. So, and like I said earlier, you don't have to start with coding if you're getting into data. Though if you add programming languages to your repertoire, it's a definite advantage. Python, R, SQL to begin with. You have those three. You started well, right? But you do not have to have programming languages to start data analytics. Start with spreadsheets, Excel and Google Sheets. Add in dashboarding like maybe Tableau or Lucas Studio or Power BI, and then you're actually in a very good position to start already, right? So roles that you probably see around data, let's see, data analyst, data scientist, database administrator. A database administrator usually typically does not really need to do much coding, but they might. Business intelligence analyst, data modeler, quantitative analyst, performance analyst. Those are roles in data. I don't remember if I give you examples of roles in cybersecurity. So you might have a cybersecurity specialist, a security engineer. Those are examples of roles in cybersecurity. So now let's say we've come this far and you still haven't seen a combination that really, really works with your own answers. Let's try this. So let's talk about the people that love to sell. Remember, I said it earlier that some people love to sell. I'm not saying they know how to do business. Some people are great at business, but they don't know how to sell. So they hire people that know how to sell and they're selling. But I'm saying people that they have experience with pitching. Ah, any small thing like they can sell ice to an Eskimo. You know those people, right? Like they're very important. And I have to say this. I know that in a lot of fields, like the sales people, they like to look at them like they're not important. But we always say tech is profitable and the companies are making profits in millions and billions of dollars. But the reason tech is profitable is because the salespeople know how to sell. Without sales, they're not going to make that kind of money. So, and this is how you know it. Nearly every successful salesperson that you hear about from the 90s, they were selling computers. Go and trace them. They were selling for IBM. They were very good at sales. Those ones, now you can sit down and write emails. Then they're knocking door to door. They're cold calls. So they were good. The tech boom happened because there were great salespeople working in tech. And the tech boom will continue to happen because people who know how to sell are working in tech. So you're very, very important if this is the bucket you fall into. You enjoy your numbers, you know your way around your numbers, data is important to you. Maybe you even have experience with strategy and planning. You're able to sit down with numbers and say, okay, when I was doing 15 calls a day or per hour, and I was calling this particular set of people, this was the percentage of conversion I was getting. But when I focus on these people, that conversion rate goes up. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to spend more time calling this demographic and a little less time calling this demographic so I can compound my yes, you're a salesperson. Yep, this is where you are. Or maybe, and when you're working, it's very, very important that you meet your targets. You know who the stakeholders in the conversation are, and you're pandering to them, you're planning, you're trying to please them, you're trying to make sure that they're prioritized, right? So you know that your manager's opinion is important. You know how to match the stakeholders in the context per context. Yes, especially if you're the kind of person that's sensitive to packaging, because only people that are sensitive to packaging are very, very good at packaging a product properly. You can't sell without packaging. Anybody knows that. You can't sell without packages. So if you are sensitive to packaging, yeah, you belong here, right? So now, thriving in tech sales requires two major things. One, you need to thoroughly understand the product on the table. You don't need to know how to build it, but you need to understand it and how it works, right? Number two, you need to make the end user want it enough that they want to part with their money. Once you have those two things, you're good to go. You'll thrive in sales. You will thrive in sales. And it is very, very you might hear roles like sales engineer, head of sales, VP sales, director of sales, salesperson. Companies sometimes have very creative ways to describe sales, but companies are almost always looking for salespeople. So of all the fields we've treated so far, these guys they're the least likely to struggle, right? And then now, so let's say that, and now so far I would say for each of these buckets we've talked about, you don't need to 100% match each bucket. You don't need to 100% match each bucket. The most important thing that you need to do is that you need to match a majority of the parameters, and the parameters you don't match must be things that you're either willing to learn, and they have to be things that do not trigger you. If they make you very uncomfortable, you're not struggling to fit yourself, else I will not fit. So again, for sales, yeah, if you have experience or exposure to computers is an advantage. If you are great with pitching is an advantage. If you have experience working in digital marketing, you're you're on a very, very good level. If you're great with customer relations management, you're on a very, very good level, right? But let's say you find that you don't really fit into any of these things. Let's answer that question. So say for example, if you can work in support. In fact, support is one of the easiest ways. Typically, if you're not very technical, if you're not very sure on whether you actually want to enter tech, If your preferences and liabilities lie very firmly outside of coding, outside of programming and tech, you're still very needed. You get to be the backbone that keep tech structures running. So you see people that are very technical, you've seen the way we've described all their roles, they're very vital to creating the actual products and solutions that are being sold in the tech industry. However, um, for those companies to run properly, they need support staff. So if we're talking about the idea behind support staff is that for them, this is the easiest switch into tech because you would just take what you already know how to do. In fact, maybe what you're already doing itself, your present role, just do it for a tech company. Just do it for a tech company. Support is like the easiest way to get your foot in the door. It's say maybe you love operations, you enjoy making things work, you enjoy making things run, or maybe you enjoy investigations, you're very curious. Maybe you know you're very focused on, oh dear, maybe you're very focused on how things are executed together, right? How a plan comes to life. Maybe you're great with diagnostics. You're a very curious person. You know how to keep asking why and figure out a problem. If this is your thing, if you're sensitive to how everybody's working together, how relationships are being managed, you will thrive in support. Oh, you will thrive in support. And let me list some of the common rules that you hear that, you know, their support roles: project manager, support staff; product manager, product marketing manager, information officer. In fact, a lot of network engineers, their support, they are not really like technical. They're more of support, right? IT specialist. You know those people that when you buy a tech or a tool or something and you don't know how to make it work, and it's a little hard, you don't know how to make it work, and then you reach out to them, you send them an email. The person that writes back to you is typically not a tech person, they're typically a support person. They understand it so very well, and so they're able to guide you in how to use it. That's an IT specialist typically. Database administrator sometimes doesn't speak technical person. People that work with quality assurance, the testers. When the software engineer finishes the software engineer has finished building the product and they say they're ready to ship. And then the quality assurance people and the testers come and say, oh, we're going to make sure of that. Those people, they're typically not tech people. They're just mimicking users. And so they can give you very accurate feedback. So you see them as systems administrators, you see them as tech consultants, you see them as IT managers. And this is actually intense, but it just goes to show you that there's a space for you everywhere. So what I'm going to do at this point in time is that I am going to give you the opportunity to look at what you want to do. And if you have questions at this point or you're not sure where you fit and you want me to weigh in, right, just yes. Okay, I just saw your message. Cloud architects, yes. So if you want me to weigh in, you have questions, you have something that is not clear, pop it in the chats for me. Let's talk about what we have so far.
Can we unmute and ask?
Okay. All right. Please go
Okay.
ahead and
So from what you were explaining and also talking, thank you for sharing. It's been enlightening. I could identify different options, but then I was
right.
wondering if there are like three different pathways or four different pathways I think might align with my interest and the different buckets that you mentioned earlier. How do
Mm,
you um cut down to decide I think this would be a better fit and something to
mm.
start pursuing now, the learning phase, and then moving forward with that? Yeah.
Okay, so if you remember, let me try to go back to that slide. Let me try to go back to that slide. If you remember, I said there are here. Okay, I was saying that there are other details. So these are some of the things you can actually also now consider. You can look at what your preferences and hard limits are and see if they will affect the way you rank those options, 2, 3, 4 options that you say you have. Look at things you do not want to do. Look at things you don't want to do. Look at things you would rather be doing. Look at things that you already do and you enjoy. And I will always say this about successful transitions. If a transition that will not stress you is a transition that leans very heavily in what you already have, into what you already have and enjoy. So it lessens the jump, it lessens the difference, the disparity. So it makes it easier to make the transition. So if you want to make a transition, I would say look at the one that aligns the most with what you already know that you enjoy. Then a second factor will be what you are curious about and you really, really, really want to learn. If that does not now help you to narrow down your preferences, oh, no, actually, true. But if that does not that now help you to narrow down your preferences, I would say that you can send an email. Okay, you can fill out the feedback form. We're going to share feedback. Okay, let me just drop the link now. I was going to share it later, but drop drop your question in the feedback form, right? And what I will do is that the plan is that for everybody that drops their feedback, I'm going to write back. We'll have a conversation around this to help you to actually make sure that you are on the path that you would rather take, a path that you will enjoy, that will be easy for you and all of that, right? So if you know prioritizing the experiences that you already enjoy and want to keep doing, if prioritizing that does not help you narrow down on a choice, and if prioritizing the things you're curious about does not help you narrow down on a choice, when you fill out the feedback form, add that as a question. We'll have a private conversation with you and we'll solve that. Is that fine?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, do we have any other person? Any other person? Or should we go ahead? All right. Um, we are we? Aha. So at this point, I want us to talk about let's get a little bit into transition roadmap, getting started, and you know, trying to project what it's going to look like as you move forward. Like if you're doing a career transitioning, how do you move from one field to another? And the idea behind this is that I want to help you plan a successful transition. Yes, like plan. You need a plan. I know we like to wing things, and yes, I'm a very big advocate of just trying things out, enjoying the journey. I write a productivity newsletter, and I'm always saying this: enjoy the journey, enjoy where you are, enjoy the process from going this place to that place. However, whatever you want to wing, mm, the 6 elements I'm about to show you must be represented. If you don't have all the 6 elements represented, you will struggle in your transition, and it will either be truncated or you end up overwhelmed and frustrated. And we want to remove that, right? We want to remove that entirely from your journey because we want to make this the smoothest, easiest transition for you. So the first thing you're going to learn how to do is that you're going to make sure that your transitioning plan um ensures that you are covering the pillars of where you want to transition to. You have to commit to learning. You need to ground yourself on the basics. You need to find a solid curriculum. You need to find a way to learn that makes sure that you know the basic principles of what you're trying to do. For websites, for example, you need to know the basic principles of how to host a website on a server, how to design a framework for it, how to make sure that what your client wants to communicate is what you're communicating, how to design the experience, and how to bring that out. You need to know those basics. So whether you're going the no code route and you're doing something like WordPress, or you're going front end or back end development, you need to know the basics, right? If you're going, say you're doing data, I already explained, I mentioned this earlier, you need to know bare minimum. Learn how to handle spreadsheets, learn how to manage a database, learn how to present visualizations, whether it's going to be presentations or it is going to be a tool like maybe you're building dashboards with maybe Tableau or Power BI or stuff, right? You need to know the basics. And if you're going into something that is maybe like a little bit more in, not so far into tech, but maybe more support inclined. If you're getting into support and you're getting in there maybe as a project manager and you already have experience with project management, for you, learning the basics will mean knowing how to manage a project that is technical. So if you're like guess where you need to do. If you're going to buy a course, you need to do it. If you're going to get on YouTube and plan out your learning, get that. If you're going to get on Coursera or any of this education virtual education platforms, you need to learn. And like you can't even do it without learning. You need to learn. You need to learn. And then the second thing you really need to do is practice. So for some of us, I know there are people that go from boot camp to boot camp, and this is the reason why. They learn, but they don't practice, so they forget. They learn, but they don't practice, so they forget. And then when they're confronted with the idea of, okay, you've been doing this, you've been learning this thing for how long? Come and try applying. They cannot apply. Why? They did not practice. Because so no, they don't even know for sure that they know how to do it. To the point where they can show a prospective employer that they know how to do what they're claiming they know how to do. So obviously that switch is not happening. So you have to practice. Look for practical case studies. Look for practical examples that can simulate. And this is a thing. Don't just do isolated exercises. Do practical cases that simulate real life work. If you want to work as a data analyst, try and do practical cases. You can get into cargo competitions. You can get into challenges. You can follow somebody who already does what you're doing and who already does what you want to do rather, and tends to put out challenges that you can practice with. Watch and learn. You can't get far without practicing. You don't, in fact, your learning is not complete until you can do. So practice, right? A third thing that you need to incorporate is positioning. 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 No, I am going to say this because people like to say networking. I don't agree. Networking is important, very important, but networking is not primary. Networking is not the solution to your problems. Your existing network tends to matter a lot more than a new bond you will form. Do you know why? They've known you for longer. They know your work ethic. They are more credible referrers because they know where you're coming from. I'm not discounting the fact that it is possible that you go to a networking event and you meet one person that totally changes your life. But if you will notice those kind of stories, they're not very common. And so they're like miracles when they happen. You're a lot more likely to land a new job because you were referred either directly or indirectly, like directly as per somebody mentioned your name, or indirectly as per they saw a role and they sent it to you to go and apply. But you're a lot more likely to land your new role because you're referred by somebody that already exists in your network. So that's the reason why positioning is important, because it's important that when they mention your name in rooms where you haven't been in, or when they send you stuff and say, oh, apply for this, um, the profile that those people will check out, it has to be something that actually accurately speaks for your work. So you need to start to create a portfolio, a profile that shows off what you know. So you're going to melt your old skills. This is why it was important that we had that conversation around the work you enjoy doing, the experience you have that you want to keep replicating. You understand that you want to transfer. That's the reason why it was important to have that conversation, because when you now start to redesign your CV, redesign your resume, um, work on your say your LinkedIn profile, your Cargo profile, your Tableau public profile, your GitHub profile, those kind of profiles and stuff like that. Yeah. It needs to show where you're coming from, the experience, the domain knowledge, the advantage you have because of where you're coming from, and then the strengths that you have, the results you've been able to create because of like your existing brilliance. You crossing into a new field does not take away your existing brilliance, right? And then that profile also needs to show off the new knowledge you are acquiring as you are acquiring it. And that profile, that all setting up a profile is what we call positioning. You need to position yourself in such a way that people are happy to refer you. You know, there are some situations, I don't know if you've been in those situations before, where they say they're looking for someone that can do XYZ job. You know someone that can do it, but their profile is not it. So you're afraid to mention their name because people, you mention their name, they want to search them out or they reach out to them and they don't look like they can do it. Then you now have to start explaining and be looking for extra words to convince this person that, oh no, they can really, not many people will do that for you. I'm not saying that you might not have people that will do that for you, but the odds that the people that will be willing to do that for you will be the people that encounter the opportunities you need. Those odds are very slim. So, for the sake of yourself, your career, and your future, position yourself in a way that you are easy to refer. Position yourself in a way that you're easy to refer. And like I said, your existing network is like going to be a lot more valuable than the connections you're just making, because connections you're just making, they're new. It's not very, very nice or wise to like meet a person and immediately start to lay demands on them. I'm not saying that it's not possible to navigate it. You can probably possibly navigate it, but that's my conversation for today. You can probably possibly navigate it, meeting a person and almost immediately leaning into them to say, oh, connect me, refer me, or whatever. It's hard to navigate, it's not easy peasy and whatnot. So what I'm just going to say at this point in time is that if your current network is not it, like if you cannot rely on them for a transition, it actually speaks to one or two things. Either your values are not very aligned with the people that you're attracting, or you have not been intentional about the people, your boundaries, and the people you allow close to you. But again, it's not conversation for today. I just said I should tell you. So, positioning is the art of making someone remember you. And I would also say that it's not enough that you met this person. It's not enough that maybe they even collected your card or they saved your contact. It's not enough. Will they, if they step into it, if they're in a situation where somebody is needed that has your own skill sets, is that can you rely on them? Can you reliably say that they will remember that you match that skill set and they will be willing to recommend you? That's the work of positioning. Now, if positioning is sometimes for some people, positioning is a problem they have in their career, and it's not really like they need a career switch. They just need a better role within the career, within the field that they currently are, and positioning is a problem they need to solve. If positioning is a problem you need to solve, I can say this: when you are filling your feedback form, please state it that positioning is a problem you need to solve. I may have something for you. Or working with a corporate partner that might have something in that direction for you. So I'm just saying that. Yeah. Yeah. The next pillar, proficiency. Proficiency is building practice. Practice practice, 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 practice. The reason you are practicing is that you are getting skilled, like you're getting more dexterous, you're getting so there are levels to proficiency. There's the level where you don't know and you don't know that you don't know. Then there's a level that you know a little and then you think that you know everything. I like the audaciousness of that level because it makes you bold to apply, to speak about your work, to speak about your learning. It makes you very bold. It draws attention. When you are smart, you will not stop at that level. You will keep on practicing and learning to grow proficiency so that you get to the level where you know, you are aware that there's a lot you don't know, but you're working actively to close that gap. You see, that zone is the zone of expertise. The ones that they don't know and they don't know, those ones, we're not concerned with them. The ones that know, but they think that they know everything, those are beginners. As a beginner, you're not very likely to land a role that will actually like bump you up income wise. If you're looking for a role that will bump you up income wise, you need to reach the zone of expertise. In which case, you're winging it. You need something. You have to make sure that you're taking care of growing your proficiency. You are building exposure, you're building experience, you're building dexterity, you're exploring tools, you're trying out options, you're playing out with different things. And for proficiency, I would say volunteer. If you're not in a structured program that makes provision for you to build proficiency, you can volunteer, you can run a freelance program, you can work as a freelancer, you can get on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr and say, I know how to do XYZ, right? You just use it to build your portfolio, use to build like you use it to like growing muscles so that it has gone from something you learned about to something that you know how to do to something you know how to use within context in conjunction with other tools to produce results that you can then use to prove to a prospective employer that hey, I know how to do this, right? um the next thing you want to do, you want to make sure that you have a program or a routine. The idea of the routine is that it's supposed to help you balance your learning, your practice, your applications, and your current work. Your current work. You have to like your plan. So maybe you're going to be doing 30 minutes of learning every day, or maybe you're going to bulk it and say, I'm doing 2 hours of learning 3 times a week. But you have to plan it. And now I'm going to point out something. If you look at this list, you can see that positioning comes before proficiency. And this is the reason why. Once you reach the beginner level, I want you to start showing up as you want to be addressed and match your skills to that, and then work to match your skills to that presence. A lot of people think I'm still a beginner, so I'm not ready to start talking about what I want to do, what I would like to do. And what happens is that they never get the sense that they have reached a level of expertise. So they start to struggle. So by the time they finally start talking about it, obviously people are just hearing that you started doing something. So they think you're a beginner. They don't realize you've passed it. So they miss out on valuable connections. They struggle with imposter syndrome because the people are relating to them on the basis of you just started talking about this thing. So as far as I'm concerned, in my subconscious, you're a beginner, but you have grown past that level. It doesn't match up. And then imposter syndrome now sits down in your house like it's paying rent. And it doesn't make any sense. So the moment you are reaching that level, as you are starting out, as you're starting to practice, as you are balancing on the basic skills and the foundations, you start to position. You start to put there's no need to lengthen your journey at all. No. No. There's no need to lengthen your journey. You balance on the basics, you start to position. That's the reason why I always put positioning before proficiency. Because in fact, a lot of times proficiency brings you the opportunities to build positioning brings you the opportunities to build proficiency. And then from there you get in with a program. It's at this point that boot camps now become useful for you. It's at this point that boot camps become useful for you. Boot camps, all those ones where they cram a lot of information into 1 weekend or into 6 weeks. You and I both know that as a working professional, 6 weeks of training one is not typically not enough to ground you properly in what you need to transition from the role where you are now to a role that pays you more in a different field. But if you have already built the foundation, a bootcamp can do that. If you're starting from scratch, a bootcamp will not do that. Very, very honestly. So you can get into bootcamps at this point. Now, a second alternative is to get into an ecosystem. An ecosystem will bring a lot of this features together. They'll make sure you're learning, they'll give you opportunities to practice, they'll show you how to talk about what you're doing, they will help you build proficiency and exposure or show you how to do it. They will help you build a routine. They bring everything together. So if you have an ecosystem, please get it. An ecosystem is typically longer, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. ELX runs one. I run an ecosystem for data analysts. I know there's this person, Lois. Lois runs an ecosystem for web designers. Get into an ecosystem. I will do this for everyone who is registered. If you fill the feedback form and you indicate that you are interested in finding an ecosystem for the particular field that you're interested in, if we have any links, I'm happy to refer you and point you in that direction. I am happy to do that. Find an ecosystem will save you a lot more than trying to balance all the because again, this is just 5 out of 6 pillars, right? Because the 6th pillar is petition. You need to start applying. It's not enough to talk about it. It's not enough to say, oh, I'm learning data analytics, or I'm learning web development, or I'm learning designing, or I'm learning UX design. Apply. You have to apply. You have to apply. If you're not applying to new jobs, your career switch will not happen. So whether or not, so for some people, they learn the new skill, but the organization is big enough that they can just say, oh, I want to move to a new role in a new department, and then the application is more of an internal movement and all of that. And so some people in organizations that are big enough that that kind of transfer actually gives you the income boost that you're looking for, right? But for a lot of people, you might have to move organizations. In fact, you might have to move the countries that you're looking at. So maybe you decide that I want to go from being an editor or being an administrator in a company that is in Western Africa. And I want to start working as a data analyst in a company that is in Canada. You can do that. There's no limit. But anyway, the long and short of it is that if you're going to get that done, if you're going to do that, you have to apply. And I always say this, start applying once you start learning. This is why. So once you get your positioning down, start applying. Start applying. And what it does is this, it helps you absorb more important things. This is why when you want to apply, you read through the job description, right? And then use that to write a cover letter. You use that to answer your application questions. You use that to sort through all of these little details. It makes you very cognizant of what you don't know yet. And it helps you know the direction your learning should be going in. There's nothing like a job description to show you what you need to learn. So you're going to absorb when those things come up in classes, in wherever it is that you are learning, you will absorb it faster because your brain already recognizes that it is important. If you wait till you think that you are an expert before you now come and start applying, no, you're just learning your journey, and that does not make a lot of sense. So I recognize that there are people either already on this call or that they are planning to, that will be watching the recording, that are planning, they're already learning different things and they want to watch with their job search. This is from when I was working with Amazon. There was a tool that the learners used to use to land their jobs. So I'm just going to show you. Just give me a second. Aha, here we go. Open role. So open role is this. You know how when you are trying to switch careers and This is like feedback that I hear a lot. This is feedback that I hear a lot. People will say they want to transition, but before they learn, before they learn, before they before they um practice, then they not plan everything, they not start looking for a job, and it's just exhausting. So what Open Road does is that it helps you search. So you tell Open Road the sort of roles you want to find, and then it searches it for you. And for a lot of my past students in the past, 3 years, I'm talking about the fact that, like I said, it's we've worked with almost 3,000. My own current personal cohort is a lot smaller than that, but we've done cohorts of 20, cohorts of 50, cohorts of 1,200, and like they all have positive feedback about this particular tool. And so, of course, in subsequent cohorts of data analytics with Jane, we will be given access to this tool. But again, OpenRole is a tool that you can use on your own. Go to openrole.ai and you can sign up to join their wait list. And one of the things that you will be able to do is that you can get very specific with OpenRole. You tell OpenRole, you tell OpenRole that this is the kind of work you want to do, and it finds you job descriptions that match those preferences. So all you have to do is apply. And I always say this: don't stress. Like if you can eliminate stress from your life, if you can eliminate stress from your journey, do it whatever you can to do it. I think it is. Yeah. So there are no recruiters, there are no ads, they are not it's not like LinkedIn where they're headhunting you per se, and then they look at your profile and they say no, you can't apply. Or them they don't want you. Open role, you can tell open role that you want a job that is remote, that is domiciled in this country, maybe because of the time zone, that the company size is this, that gives you these conditions, and these are the kind of titles you wanted to look for, and it will look for you. So it's not that you're going to LinkedIn to go and search, then you go and search job alert on Google, then you'll be asking everybody. Every day you get new notifications. Every time there is a new posting, job posting, searches over 10,000 titles. And so that's like an advantage for you. So AI, and if you want us to refer you to them, let us know. We will be happy to do that. As a matter of fact, let me say it. I like keeping my secrets. Okay, so we've said a lot today, but what at this point, time has gone. I need to wrap up. So I would say this: with all that we have said and all that we have learned, what would you like to do next? You can put it in the chat for me. You can unmute and share. But what would you like to do next? What would you like to do next? What do you think you should be doing next? What do you think you should be doing next? Do you want me to talk about it? Or do you have answers already? Excuse me. Anybody. Right. You want to reevaluate your choices based on the buckets I mentioned. That's a good place to start. Yeah, that's a good place to start. I don't know for. It's a very, very good place to start. Evaluation. It's almost like you picked that out of my head. Because what I was going to say is this: you need to start by assessing. You need to figure out where you are, where you want to go. That's like a good place to start, right? And the second step I would often advise is planning. You figured out where you are, you understand where you are, you figured out. So where you are is talking about, oh, this is my experience, this is my preferences, these are my interests, right? And then you look at where you want to go, like which of these buckets do you want to fall into, right? And then you now map out the path from where you are to where you want to go, and you account for the realities of life. Now, why am I saying assess and then plan? Number one, specificity is an advantage. I know we don't like doing one thing, we don't like to commit, but honestly, if you are specific, if you pick one and you say, this is the direction I'm going to go, I'm going to give it 2 to 3 years, um, and then see how I can explore it and all of that, it will lessen your overwhelm because you're not it reduces the burden of choice. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. It helps you attract the specific opportunities you prefer. You're not doing minimum anymore and being overwhelmed at every corner, right? So I know we like to ask what if, but I also know that being okay with knowing that saying yes to A means no or later to B, and then committing to that path, and then passing down the road to say, I will reevaluate at so and so point and then coming back. It does wonders for your speed, it does wonders for your ease, and it does wonders in eliminating the overwhelm. And then when I say when you're mapping out your plan, it needs to account for the realities of your life. I actually do mean that. For example, you're a working professional, you have a job. You have a job. So as you are learning and practicing and building your portfolio and positioning, and you are showing up at work, you have responsibilities, you have deadlines to meet. And it's the reason why I said earlier that getting in an ecosystem might do a lot better for you than trying to do a boot camp. And then, as you're making your plans, account for your learning styles and difficulties. If you know that you hate sitting down to in a class, there's no reason for you to go and sign up for a physical class. If you know that you like an avenue where you can ask your instructors questions, there's no need for you to go and sign up for a self-paced program, right? So you need to factor that in, and then you've assessed, you've planned, and then you start to execute. So you bring that plan to life in your everyday life. You're committing 30 minutes every day to learning, or you want to do 2 hours, 3 days a week, week in, week out. You need to plan it. Or rather, you need to execute it. You need to put that plan you have created, you need to put it to life, bring it to life in your everyday life, right? So if I had to give you advice, this is what I would have said. But then I would say you should still go back and look at it and say, okay, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? What am I doing next? Is there anybody else that wants to share? Is there anybody else that wants to share? We spent more than 2 hours here, and I want us to try and wrap up. I really hoped that I would actually be able to get more into detail about transitioning and, talking about effective job searches. And right now I'm starting to think that if we do a second session, would you attend? That's the second question, and I think you should drop the answers for me in the comment section. Yeah, like if we do a bonus session, would you attend? Oh, okay, that's a yes. That's another yes. Okay, so we can say we're doing a second session where we talk about we talk more in detail about transitioning. We talk more in detail about learning ecosystems and how they work, and maybe examples for each of the learning buckets, for each of the tech career buckets. We can talk about effective job searches. That's another yes. Um, and then because I am a data analyst, and I can probably talk about a data analytics career roadmap, right? So okay, let's see about getting that. But here's what we're gonna do. I think I already pinned the feedback form in the chat. So what I would like you to do for me is to use that form to let us know what you liked about the session, what you want us to what you want us to go over again, what you want us to address. If you have further questions that we have not already addressed, right? Um, I would want you to put it in the feedback form for me so that if it needs that I speak with you privately, I will send you a reply via email. If you're interested in the open role too, I will link you up with them via email. And there was another question. There was something else I asked for in the feedback form earlier. I was saying that if you've gone through the buckets and you've looked at the different options and you're still not sure where to go, let us know in the form. I will reply via email. Right. So here's what we've done today. So far, so good. We've talked about why tech is important. We've talked about the AI conundrum. We've talked about where we belong. We've done a couple of case studies. We've looked at transitioning, right? We've looked at transitioning. So I would like to know if you can put it for me in the comment section. What was your key takeaway from this session? What was your key takeaway from this session? And if you would like to unmute, please go ahead and unmute. What was your big lesson that you learned from this session? Or was it just something you attended a waste of time? What's going on?
Thank you. I would talk. Thank you very much, Jane. I didn't expect it to be this detailed or to be this wide, but I'm really appreciative for how you explained it. And I think one of the ongoing thoughts that was in my head while at the beginning session was you have a very lovely voice and a very interesting way of explaining that just captures. I think it's your voice, but I also think it's even the way you explain and you talk about it that captures the audience and just keeps you engaged and thinking about it and how engaging you are even with the different exercises you gave us. But my major takeaway was considering career transition is not just about many mining more, but this looks good, but that's or looking at these buckets, it's actually going to help understand where my strength lies and that I could be more intentional about my transition into tech. So it's something that I could enjoy. And I particularly like something you said just a few minutes ago that while executing, we should give ourselves 2 to 3 years before we decide that it doesn't work for us. And within that time to execute, to put the plan in place. And I'm appreciative of that. I think that's one of the key moments for me because, like I mentioned earlier, I had like 3 different options that I felt like this will look good. And I might have fallen into the pit of giving just a short period of time to think about it or to work or to learn about it and just like, it's not working and then move. But you saying we should give it 2 to 3 years makes me now understand I have to be actually intentional about it and putting the time and the effort into it before then deciding whether it's not more feasible or something. So thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yes, I like to say 2 to 3 years, which is why I also like to encourage people to be very precise with their choice. Because if you just dabble in, dabble out, careers take time to build. A career path takes time to build and yield. So it's not always, if you're looking for quick answers, it's not likely that you will learn something that will be very, very profitable. And sorry, because I'm a business person. So even though I have a corporate career, I do tend to think of it like I'm thinking of a business. So you hear me say things like profitable career. Your career is a business. You put in time, you put in effort, you put in learning period, you pay for courses, you maybe you have a job like a physical job, so you're paying transport, you go, you come back, or maybe you're spending money on data, you are moving to an environment where if you live there, it is easier for you to work. That is input. That is cost. It needs to yield profit, and like you can't just dabble into it and dabble out. You will end up with a lot of like bad expenses that does not yield profits back for you. So that's the reason why I say 2 to 3 years, which is also the reason I'm always like get specific and intentional with your choice. So thank you very much for sharing. Is there another person who would like to share? Okay, so 10:43 p.m. I would like to thank every single person who stayed till the end of this call. I know that we were more than double of this at some point, but time has gone, um, and it has been time has gone, and you know we've gotten into nitty-gritty of a few things. But I'm really really glad that you showed up today. And here's what I can promise. So number one, we're going to be looking at the first 5 non-PKH people. They said I should not restrict it. Okay, no problem. So we're going to be looking at the first 5 people to join to this call, and I will be gifting them career strategy sessions for turning up in person and turning up early. So yes, we'll be in touch on how you can sign it, on how you can arrange and schedule that within the next 3 weeks. Like you have to schedule within the next 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, I'm not going to be able to do those sessions anymore. So there is that. Number one. A second thing is we will be able to do a bonus session by Friday, and we're going to consider, given the nature of the topics we want to discuss on Friday on our second topics on our second session, rather, we're going to consider bringing in a guest speaker to make sure that we're having a rounded, detailed conversation. Okay, I see your hand.
Sorry, it's supposed to be a clap. Mistake.
Okay, thank you, Aloha. So yes, we're going to be bringing that person in. So by tomorrow you will get an email containing details about Friday session and details about the person that we're bringing in. But it will also contain a link to how to watch the replay of the session. I'm going to try and do a re-recording of that beginning part that's that we didn't remember to record. But by tomorrow morning, you will have an email containing that. So if you have anybody that you know that would have benefited from being in today's session, please go ahead and ask them to register. That link that you used to register, it will still be valid. And so go ahead, tell them to go ahead and register. We'll make the replay available at least for a while, and then we'll share details about Friday session and all of that. But if you want the free session, we will let you know. So we'll be in touch. Thank you so very much for coming. It's been an utter delight spending this evening with you. And I really do hope you have been able to gain valuable insights that you'll go ahead and use.
Thank you very much, Jen. Have a wonderful night rest.
All right, have a wonderful night rest. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.